So, good morning to everybody. This is an introduction and background to the 12 clips of the Rebbe Zalman interview that I did back in 2000. I'm going to post the first clip with this background as a sample. And if you care for the other 11 clips, you will contact me directly. So the interview was done in Boulder, Colorado. I flew there from New York. I stayed with the Shliach Rebbe Pesach Shiner, a childhood acquaintance, family friend here in Borough Park, the Lubavitcher Shliach there. And the sole reason that I went was because Rebbe Zalman was on my radar for 25 years since I was a bocher, a student in yeshiva. And I heard that he was a 770 student from 1941, and then he was sent on shlichus in 1945 or 46 to New Haven to open the yeshiva there. So it amazed me that from there he kind of left Chabad Lubavitch and started the renewal movement. This was very, very unprecedented. And I really wanted to get to know this person. But more importantly, I wanted to evoke and awaken deep, latent feelings in him of his youth and his association and connection to Chabad, to Lubavitch, to the previous Rebbe, Rabbi Yosef Yitzchak, and our Rebbe. And I believe that was accomplished. I also wanted to awaken a feeling of tshuva, that those issues that were contrary to halacha and Torah, Rebbe Zalman would, at age 85, when I interviewed him, would say, okay, now we need to take all the teachings and all the people and somehow bring them back to Torah and halacha. And that was really another kavanah, another intent of mine. Whether this was accomplished or not, I don't know. One thing I know is that a Yid after he passes on, is in Gan Eden, and whatever needed to take place took place, and now it's only good from here on. So let's begin where Rebbe Zalman's, when he tells me at the beginning, he says a tefillah, he says a prayer, he says it's brought in certain svarim, certain writings, and he says, may the spirit of Ruach HaKodesh be present. Ruach HaKodesh means the spirit of holiness. It's very debatable whether it's applicable today. Even if we say and we accept that it is applicable today, it doesn't mean that excuse the expression, Tom, Dick, and Harry has it. And it doesn't mean that Rebbe Zalman has it. It doesn't mean that I have it. It doesn't mean that you have it. So I'll let you decide. But the implication of what Rebbe Zalman is saying is that he's hopeful that Ruach HaKodesh will speak through him. I didn't comment on that at the time because every person is entitled to their beliefs. It's very obvious that Rebbe Zalman thought about it and believed that the spirit of holiness, the Ruach HaKodesh, speaks through him, if not regularly, at times. And whether this is so or not is not for me to say. I'll let you decide. But that's what he alluded to in the very beginning when he mentions Ruach HaKodesh. And he also says the shalshelis. He speaks about the chain. He's talking about the chain of the Lubavitcher Rabbeim, from the Alter Rebbe, the Balatanya, Reb Shneur Zalman, to the previous Rebbe, for sure, and the Rebbe I believe the Rebbe as well, because he was connected to both. although as he says later on in various ways, he considered his Rebbe the previous Rebbe, Rabbi Yosef Yitzchak. And naturally, because he grew up with him from 1941 till he passed on in 50, those are the years that he was in yeshiva, and he was his emissary, and there was a heart relationship, an emotional relationship. So, when Shlomo Carlebach, Reb Shlomo, passed away, Reb Zalman came to the casket at the Levaya, at the funeral, and he said, this is what they say, he says, Shlomo, go and tell the Rebbe that we are his Chasidim. And he meant go and tell the previous Rebbe, or he said it actually, we are his Chasidim. So although he had tremendous respect for the Rebbe and his learning and many other things, and the Rebbe showed him closeness, as we'll talk about in the upcoming clips, nevertheless, I would say that his Rebbe was the previous Rebbe. Then he talks about, on the clip, he talks about his background, and basically, to sum it up, his patrilineal ancestors were Belzer Chasidim of the holy Belzer Rebbes, not only of Rebbe Aaron Rokeach, who passed away in 1957 in Eretz Yisrael, in Israel, but going back to the Schachtar Doiv, 150 years back with the Belzer Rebbes. But he does say something interesting, which I don't know if you picked up on. He says there, his father, I think his name was Shlomo, Reb Shlomo Schachtar, he says already was more modern. I assume that means that he didn't wear streimel, he didn't wear long payas, he didn't wear a bekisha, a long frock, black frock, and knickerbocker, black socks, as is the traditional garb of Belzer Hasidim. I doubt it. And I think that's a very important few words that he says, Reb Zalman, to put things in perspective and for us to understand. He came from an open-minded type of home. So yes, his father was Orthodox in the strict sense of the word. And nevertheless, he wasn't, as we say in Yiddish, a Haser Belzer Chasid, a passionate Belzer Chasid. They just came from Europe, survived the war, were newcomers to this country. And first of all, the Belzer Rebbe wasn't here. So who did you have at the time? You had the previous Rebbe, Rabbi Yosef Yitzchak. You had the Mozhitzer Rebbe, the Kapistitzer Rebbe. A few Rebbes were around. But the bulk of Hasidic Judaism was not here. In fact, it wasn't there either. In Europe, it was decimated, unfortunately. And then it transitioned to Eretz Yisrael. The Ger Rebbe came there. The Belzer Rebbe came there. So his father wasn't, this strict, passionate, active Belzer Chassid. And he was more open to Zionism. Reb Zalman talks about how in the morning he went to a Zionistic cheder there in Belgium or wherever he was, and in the afternoon he went to like a more frum program. And then finally, towards the end of the clip, he talks about where he met what later he became to know was the Rebbe in Belgium. And he saw that, he called him the Moroccan. The Moroccan learned with a Algerian Chacham, scholar. And he said that this Moroccan didn't speak much besides learning with him. He didn't, talk and with people in shul or Beis Medrash. And it struck him. He was drawn and attracted to him, which is also an important thing to understand, that Rav Zalman, as a seeker, you could see that this man in his youth was a seeker. He wasn't satisfied with status quo. And he identified in the Rebbe that this quiet, obtrusive man who's dressed so, kind of with the times, I don't know if he says it, but the Rebbe at the time, I think, wore gray. It was stylish. And, it's this individual that he has his eyes on. I mean, who is this man? Why is he so quiet? And here he's learning with this Chacham. And I think this is also important as he begins his search for Hashem, for Torah, vis-a-vis Chabad Chassidus. We'll continue in the next clip. Again, if you want to get the future clips, you need to contact me directly. Thank you.